Right, let's bust into this surprisingly good fight night card. They usually suck pee, but this one actually's got some good fights on it. I mean, even in the prelims, we got Janes versus Rosa early on. I mean, that's nothing crazy, but Justin Janes is a fun fighter. Those shoveling shots, uppercuts through the guard, thick fucking head. He's fun to watch. And more exciting in the prelims, we actually got that Uzbekistan fella who choked out not Charles Oliveira, Cowboy Oliveira in the first round. Seems like a stud. I mean, Oliveira's no joke on the ground, so to be able to get a first round submission says something. He's fighting a fella who has been in the UFC for a bit, but I have not really seen any of his fights or paid attention to him. Michel Prazeres. I mean, he's got a lot of fights. He's 26-3. I mean, the dude has obviously been around the block. It's surprising I haven't nothing in my memory about him, but it should be kind of a fun fight. Find out some more about this Uzbekistan fella. And then in Kennedy and Chuck Wu, he got bounced off the main card and put onto the prelim header, which I was kind of surprised. When I saw him in the main card, him versus this other light heavyweight I never heard anything about. I was so sad when I saw that as the co-main, but they got bumped down into the prelims, and we got a bit of a tighter main card here. Did some good film review on all these matchups, and we will start here at the bottom. Renato Moicano versus Jai Herbert. This is low-key going to be a banger. We know what Moicano is good at. He's actually pretty skilled on the feet, sharp jabs, looks for good hooks, and I like his switch kicks he throws as well. He times them well and chooses his shots with them. The obvious thing is the chin is a bit suspect. You know, the head movement and his chin kind of combination. He doesn't eat shots the greatest, and his head is there to be hit. He's a pretty tall, long guy, which helps him, but against people who have shown that they have the skills to land on the chin and weather the strikes that he is laying out, they have been able to find the mark, and it has been they've ended the rounds on him. He's had a couple unfortunate losses because of that. Jai Herbert is a bit newer to the UFC scene. He's been in Cage Warriors for a bit. Watched one of those fights, as well as I rewatched the Trinaldo fight, which I only really remembered the end of the Trinaldo fight in like the stoppage where it was like a pretty bad stoppage by Herb Dean. I'm pretty sure that was also Dan Hardy's last commentating gig, unfortunately for the man, after he popped off on him. But other than getting knocked out by Trinaldo, he actually looked fantastic. He was piecing him up on the feet. He would get Trinaldo to pull the high guard up with like a fluttering jabs, and then he just pierced these very snappy, tight right hands right through the guard, land right on the chin, and they affected Trinaldo every time. He even knocked him down in the second round with that exact engagement. He's also pretty skilled in the clinch with the knees. He goes to that Thai plum, and he's very effective at landing knees on the face and doing damage with them. As well as I think he works out of that same camp as Leon Edwards, but he's got good wrestling, solid scrambling game off the bottom. He doesn't seem to be super vulnerable in a lot of areas. You know, I mean, obviously, Moicano is going to have the advantage on the ground here, but he's solid. He's not weak there, and he doesn't have any glaring holes in his game when it comes to the grappling, which is nice. Usually, a lot of these guys who are solid and fluid on the feet struggle on the ground, but he seems to be a pretty full package. Other than just, it's just kind of unfortunate. It got caught by that big overhand. It happens. It's the fighting game. I think this will be a pretty good fight for him. On the feet, I would expect to see Jai Herbert succeeding. I mean, Moicano's also pretty good at jabbing, which he's got a bit of a longer jab if I recall. If I think their arm length, I think Moicano's is a bit longer. Herbert's more fluid. When you see him throwing that jab, it's really whipping and fluid, and same thing with his straights. Whereas Moicano's a bit more like of that, like, not spazzy, but like you can tell he's using a lot of muscle and like strength to get that out there. I don't know, it doesn't have the same whippy fluidity that Jai Herbert has. This will be a good fucking fight. It's a great one to start off the main card. If it's on the ground, I see Moicano getting the dub. He's good at ducking in on these takedowns too, on the feet, getting people to engage with him on the feet, because he's actually got threatening things he provides on the feet. And then he's really good at ducking in either to a body lock takedown or just striking with somebody until they shoot on him. You know, he's also good at that. I mean, whenever it's on the ground, he's happy. He's pretty good. I mean, he's only been submitted by Ortega with a guillotine, which is like Ortega's best submission. It's really not a knock on him. Yeah, I think this will be interesting. I think part of what Moicano's problems have been is that also he's a really big guy for the weight division. I think he cuts a pretty hefty amount, and that affects the chin. You know, it's not easy to eat big punches when you got less water in the brain, you know, from draining it out like a sponge. But yeah, I think my gut is edging toward Jai Herbert on this one. I can see, I mean, obviously, surprise things can happen, and I don't think it'll be domination by any stretch, but I edge it out to Herbert. I think on the feet, those straight shots of his I think they were going to give Moicano some problem. They're very fast, and they land flush on the chin, and Moicano doesn't really move his head. That's what I see, and he's actually good at defending takedowns for the most part, Herbert. So unless he makes a mistake, really, or lets something slide, I don't see Moicano getting it to the ground super easily. But yeah. Next up, it's another pretty good fight. Tim Means, Nicholas Dalby. Dalby was in the UFC for a while. He got cut, and then was on a tear in Cage Warriors. And then now he's back in the UFC. He got a win over Cowboy Oliveira. Debut. Back in. It was a good win. And then he got submitted round 1 against this guy, Jesse Ronson, who just came to the UFC. It was just like his debut. But it was overturned because of steroids. Ronson popped on like a steroid test, I think. So it didn't actually count as a loss for Dalby. He's still on his win streak, technically. And now I think he picked up one more win after that. Daniel Rodriguez, that's who it was. I actually didn't see that fight, and that's a pretty good name on there, because Daniel Rodriguez has been looking pretty sharp in the welterweights, in the lower echelon of welterweights. He's kind of been slicing through them. So that's a good win. It's aged well for Dalby. The things I noticed that Dalby likes to do, he's good at finishing his combinations on the feet with head kicks. The punches aren't as efficient or pretty to look at, and a lot of time he does do these like waiting Cerrone-esque combinations where you're kind of like walking, stepping, throwing your punches at the same time and shifting your weight, which they are effective and they close good distance, but you leave yourself wide open for a pull counter or any sort of pulling your head off the center line and whipping a hook around the side, and you're just kind of waiting in. So you're taking these at even more force because you're kind of walking into it. That could be a problem because Tim Means is pretty good at picking his counter shots, especially with his hands. And even with the kicks. I was watching his fight with Staropoli, and he landed a fucking sweet kick right to the head. And it was the only head kick he had thrown in the fight. But it was very well timed and accurate and landed right in the face. I could see something like that happening. Both of these guys are pretty solid offensive grapplers. Both have struggles with somebody on top of them and who is good at grappling. They aren't the greatest scramblers from the bottom, but both are pretty good at sitting on top, softening the opponent up and getting good like control time. So that, I think whoever wins in that area might just be a matter of like who times the better takedown, who gets on top, who's on the aggressing side, first, and then I feel whoever gets that first top position is probably gonna be the one succeeding for that engagement. Whoever gets top first. I don't see lots of sweeps or things like that occurring. What else about Dalby before we move on to Means? I do like his clinch work. He's solid out of the clinch. He throws good shots after breaking. And he's also got pretty heavy top control. Puts good chest pressure when he's on somebody. And he's good at softening people up with elbows and punches when he's on top. It really is going to be the feet where he is a bit vulnerable, and I see Tim Means being more successful there. Dalby's better at mixing in the kicks and throwing kicks at the ends of combinations and stuff, especially those head kicks. But Tim Means is really fluid with his hands. He picks his shots well. He looks a little funny when he boxes because he's such a tall guy and he's kind of got short arms. But Tim Means is really good at putting pressure. He gets on the forward foot, getting into that pocket with his opponents where they want to trade boxing blows with him. And he's really good at slipping his head on the outside, landing the better shot. He throws tight hooks, straight rights. He keeps everything short, tight, snappy. Nothing he's like loading up on or really telegraphing. Yeah, he's just touching them. He just keeps touching people. He melts them down with his punches. It's really quite a sight to see. And he does get knockouts because he's, welterweight, starting to get to that weight class where it's like almost everybody has the ability to like wobble you because they're heavy. You got a good amount of weight on you. So even though he's not throwing the hardest, he's still a pretty big guy. He's pretty tall for the division. And I think it's one of those things that even kind of helps him a bit. Like he gets up in that pocket area and it's just a strain. Like you don't often, usually the tall fighter is out at the distance, likes the jabs, the long strikes, but Means is really, he's got his like Muay Thai stance, gets right up in the pocket, loves trading in there, and that's where he finds a lot of his success. And I think in that area, like in the pocket, baiting out blows and countering, he's gonna be more successful than Dalby there. I could see things like Dalby throwing punches, not being that effective, but landing with the head kick after, and that will be effective, I think, on Tim Means, because he doesn't keep the hands up, doesn't hold high guard ever. I could see those kicks making it past those shoulders. But this will be another good fight. I foresee this one going the distance. I don't see a stoppage, but this is going to be a pretty good fight. Tim Means usually puts on a good scrap. I like watching him fight. Yeah. Moving one up, we got Andre Fili and Daniel Pineda, which is both these gentlemen coming off a loss. Andre Fili coming off of like a grappling beatdown from fucking Bryce Mitchell, just getting dogged in that realm. Daniel Pineda coming off a win over Cub Swanson, which was one of those wins where it kind of felt like, or it was one of those losses where it was kind of like Swanson felt like kind of an opponent chosen for Pineda, because Pineda is very good at getting on, good at grappler, good at pressuring, putting forward pressure and getting that takedown. And Swanson has struggled with people who want to take him down and submit him. But Swanson survived that first round and put Pineda on his butt, knocked him out. It was good. So both these guys coming off a loss, going to be wanting that win back. I feel like Fili's was a bit... I feel like the way Fili lost last, the hole that he lost through is the hole that Pineda is going to be wanting to exploit anyway. He wants to get you to the ground and grapple, soften you up with good ground and pound. He's threatening on the feet. His hands stay too low. His chin is there to be hit, and he doesn't have like the most amazing head movement or anything. But since he's like such a good grappler, it's like that thing where, the really good grappler, you don't really care about getting taken down because you want to be there. So you get to be very crazy on the feet, because it doesn't matter if you get a kick, grabbed, or someone steps into your back. Like, they're just now entering into the world that you were actually wanting to be in. And he's kind of got that thing going for him. He throws reckless abandon, like leg kicks, really goes all in on throwing big right hands. It will overexpose himself, but it's like one of those things where unless he's getting caught with clean counter shots like Swanson was getting him, it's not really that big of a deal. I think this is going to be a pretty tough fight for Andre Fili. He's skilled on the feet, and on the feet I see him taking it over the distance as Pineda does slow down a bit, and the way he fights on the feet isn't conducive to a 3-round engagement. He's just throwing like really big, heavy strikes, trying to get you to react or back up or something, or try to get the knockout. Whereas Fili fights more measured on the feet, choosing his shots. It's one of those things again where it's like both these guys have the thing that they're good at is the thing that the other guy is not, and it's I feel like it's going to be who's going to be able to implement their game plan. Pineda wants Fili on the floor. Fili wants Pineda on the feet. Who's going to succeed? I don't know. Fili's pretty solid at stuffing takedowns and getting offensive duck-ins of his own. I don't know how much he's going to be willing to do that against Daniel Pineda, but he might. Yeah, this will be interesting. The first round will also tell a lot about how well Pineda fares on the feet. If he's faring well on the feet, landing on Fili, this could be a long night, because then it's going to be even easier to get to the grappling if he's not even succeeding on the feet. And vice versa. If Fili is putting on Pineda early, stuffing takedowns, or even ducking in on a takedown of his own, which I still wouldn't advise, because Pineda's pretty good at grappling off his back, getting scrambles to occur, and getting back to his feet. It might not be worth the energy investment, and he might get caught in something down there. But yeah, it's an interesting matchup, because these guys both kind of have a weapon aimed at each other's chink in their armor, and we're just going to have to be able to... It's really going to be one of those... I feel like this is about a 50-50 in my mind. I'm not really leaning either way. Both guys show some, small fight IQ lacks. They make decisions that aren't necessarily the greatest. And a higher fight IQ opponent probably wouldn't do that. But they do some things like that, just do silly things that you probably shouldn't do, maybe continuing to grapple even if the easiest way to success has been proven to be on the feet, or vice versa. I can't remember exactly. I wanted to watch that Swanson Pineda fight, but I remember getting a feeling there was a win there to be had, he was finding success on the feet and just kind of let it slip away a bit. I don't know if that's true. I could be me misremembering, but yeah, this will be another pretty good scrap, I feel. This one could get finished early. Both of these guys have the ability to do so. Yeah, this will be a very interesting one. Because Fili's a good grappler too, so he'll give Pineda something there. It's not going to just be slicing through butter. Moving on up, an even more exciting one. This one I'm actually pretty fucking excited about. Raoni Barcelos, Timur Valiev. Barcelos, he's very defensively minded, and very powerful, as well as a very heavy top position grappler. He puts good pressure, gets these back take. He times these back takes very well. Ducking in, getting a lock around the back. Who was I watching him fight? Said Nurmagomedov, who also is a pretty good prospect in this division. He hung with him on the feet, and Said is a very sharp striker. Barcelos defended everything pretty well. Nothing landed big, and he even landed some of his own shots big. Really put to work that calf kick, and I see that playing into this fight as well. Because his opponent, even though they fight different in a lot of ways, it's similar in the way that where they are very fast and fluid on the feet in different ways. Valiev is more explosive, a lot more muscle. He also, it's kind of like a wave where he comes out, at least the fight I was watching, dude comes out hot, comes out very hot. Throws lots of kicks, Taekwondo-esque, lots of side kicks, body kicks from both sides, you know, like the Taekwondo, you just throwing body kick off both legs while coming forward. He does that very well, as well as like landing spinning kick. He does everything on the feet, gets kind of crazy with it, but he's very strong, very explosive, closes distance very fast. And Haoni is a little different than that. He's slower, he more plods. He's worried about the defense first, then landing his. Very tough. I think this is going to be a tough one. I haven't seen a lot of grappling from Valiev, so I don't know if he's a very skilled grappler or not. But Barcelos is. I would be very surprised if he does not succeed on any of these duck-ins that he does. He times them very well. And once he gets to an opponent's back, he's pretty good at holding on to it for a while, even against accomplished grapplers. Yeah, he puts heavy top pressure on. He's a bit small for the division, but so is Valiev. Barcelos is susceptible to the jab because he kind of has that Muay Thai stance, holds a high guard, and he doesn't have like amazing head movement. So the jabs land when someone does jab at him a lot. And I can see if Valiev is to use that. I don't see him doing that, but I could see that really giving Barcelos some issues. Knees and elbows out the clinch, very good at doing that. And that's something I could see chipping away at Valiev, slowing him down even more, because Barcelos has a really good gas tank. He goes over the distance well. Valiev seems to slow. Like in the fight I was watching, by round 2, he was heavy mouth breathing. He's moving definitely slower. Like his idle movement, much less bouncy, you know, and movement there. Regardless, I think this is going to be very fun. This is going to be just a banger, because like Valiev, his only real defense on the feet, it seems, is like his offensive output. Like he gets to it quickly. He just starts tearing into people. Varied strike selection, high work rate, lots of feints as well, which I could see that playing in his favor against Barcelos, getting Barcelos to open up with some big hooks or a leg kick, following up immediately after he misses or something like that. Other than that, I'm probably going to edge toward Barcelos in this matchup. He's very defensively minded in a lot of regards, and I see that playing to his advantage. And he also sticks to his game plans well. And the way he uses his low kicks, chops into people's legs, affecting their movement, cutting off the ring, I see that playing really well. I mean, unless he just gets like mauled first round or something and Valiev just like steamrolls, I see Barcelos taking this fight. But this is going to be a really fun fight. This may be fight of the night, potentially. This is going to be a good one. Keep your eye on that one. Co-main, we got Tanner Boser over in St. Preux. Not a horrible heavyweight fight. There's a lot worse matchups out there. Boser is actually he's one of the more active heavyweights. In the fight, he moves a lot, has a lot of movement. He's faster than most heavyweights. You know, he's a bit meat and potatoes with his strike choice. Just like jabs, a lot of overhands. His rear hand, he does not throw straights very well. He throws a lot of like rear overhands and hooks. And the low kick, he digs to the low kick well for a heavyweight. He really puts meat into it and mustard on it. OSP, we know what he does. He likes to have distance, throws great kicks, good straight shots as well. I really like his rear straight hand that he throws. Very snappy and lands on the chin. And he's a good top grappler. Gets that Von Flue choke all the fucking time. You know? This will be a fun fight. This is kind of like, I feel like OSP is kind of a gatekeeper in this division a bit. It's like we're saying, well, does Boser have the skills right now to be one of the top heavyweights? Because OSP doesn't really change from fight to fight. He kind of shows the same things and does the same things. So it's one of those things where it's just kind of like a wall being set, and it's like, well, it's the same wall every time, but it's a tough wall, and not everyone will get past it, and only people who have some skill and have some fight IQ are gonna be able to do it. You know, you have to know that like he does not like pressure and not having distance. You know, I mean, if you sit out of distance with him and try to point fight with him, that's probably not the wisest game plan. I mean, if Boser comes in putting pressure, feints, low kicks, you know, stepping in with big right hands afterward, just pressuring OSP, not letting him feel comfortable, you know, not giving him space to land these really long kicks, forcing him to be on the back foot, he's going to find himself in a good place. And we'll see if he has the IQ, the fight IQ to do so. For OSP, I mean, I see him finding success if he does get to have his distance and gets to float around the ring and get to just land teeps whenever he wants and, you know, lance Boser whenever he comes in with his punches. He's got a good counter left hook as well. Yeah. That's the question. Can Boser crash through the gate? And then we got our heavyweight main event. Ciryl Gane and Volkov, which is a pretty compelling matchup. I think I find this to be interesting because this is going to answer some questions about Gane. He hasn't really fought any bigger guys. Volkov is a bigger guy, so that's one. He's like one of the biggest guys you can be fighting in the heavyweight division, height-wise. And he's one of the more technical strikers you're going to face. You know, Volkov, he plays behind his jab. He throws good straight punches. Loves that teep kick to the stomach. He will fight at a slower pace, just like Gane's willing to do. Gane is more explosive. I mean, the biggest differences between these gentlemen are really the experience for Volkov. Volkov has as many losses as Gane has fights professionally in MMA. You know, the guy has been around the block and has experienced lots of things and knows how to deal with lots of things because of it. Whereas Gane doesn't have that same luxury because he doesn't have all the experience. But for Gane, the thing you really see that stands out is the power and speed that he holds, as well as being so technical with it. Very light and fast on his feet, bounces around the octagon, and he does it like the whole fight. He's willing to fight at his pace. He doesn't feel the need to like put himself in a bad place just because he's really wanting that finish fast, or he's willing to wait and let the finish come to him when it comes, and just to continue doing whatever he's finding success with, like in the Rosenstruck fight, like sitting out there, feinting, jabbing at him, you know, picking at him from a distance, which I see playing well. It will either play well or not well for him. If Volkov is having the better on the feet and he's picking the better shots, landing the more accurate strikes, then then I could see that playing poorly for Gane, because then Gane's only thing really would be like to have an explosion of power and like knock him out or something. And he doesn't do that often. He really will let things happen. It plays to his benefit for the most part, and I see it probably playing to his benefit in this fight, because Volkov's a bit slow and plodding, even though he's very accurate and he's a good technical striker. And he can compete on the feet with Gane. He's just a bit slow, and I can see Gane either getting angles or using these feints to force a reaction from Volkov and then immediately countering. And Gane has a pretty solid submission game. I don't know how well the wrestling game looks, but I mean, if you've seen some of Volkov's fights, you know he does struggle against experienced wrestlers. I mean, that might be, it's a bit switching the game plan up for Cyril. He doesn't really do much of that, but I mean, that's one of those fight IQ things. If you know some guy sucks at something and is good at something else, why not force him to do the thing he sucks at? Which we might have to, that might play a factor, because I could also see Volkov doing fine on this, because I haven't seen Gane fight anyone bigger and longer than him, and if Volkov is able just to spear out jabs and teeps and keep Gane away, and Gane can't really land anything, then, you know, he might have to try to do that. This is an interesting one. I think a lot of people who are on, I think because Gane is on, he's got a bit of a hype train going right now. He's got some good knockouts. They might think that Volkov's just going to get walked through and that this is maybe a bit of an easy fight, but this is a tough one. Because Volkov poses threats that Gane has yet to face, and we have to see how he reacts to them. And that is why it's really a threat. There's not many that are as technical and as big and as long as Volkov. So he's getting two different things out of this guy. And we'll see how he handles it. Yeah. Should be pretty interesting. Not necessarily the fight of the night for me. I mean, some of those fights earlier on the main card I feel like are maybe a bit more of a banger, but for a heavyweight fight, it's pretty good. But yeah, we'll see how my observations play out this Saturday. Yeah, excited to see the fights. Thank you for listening. We'll be back again.